Hello, I'm Jason Harrelson, and today I'm going to give you what I use as a beginner's trumpet lesson. This could be something that you use to teach someone to play trumpet, or just to think about how you play trumpet, and hopefully it's helpful to everyone. The main reason I'm offering this video is because so many people ask me about the fundamentals of playing the trumpet, and I find myself explaining again and again the concepts that I use, and they apparently are not common concepts, even though they may seem so to me. So the first thing I do when I teach a beginning trumpet lesson, regardless if the student's 50 or 5 years old, I pretty much spend an entire hour or more asking the student how the trumpet works. So I take a trumpet and I ask the student, how can I produce a tone on it? And then from there we explore how the trumpet works. We explore how the embouchure works, and then in great detail we gradually start to define these things so that people understand that you have moving air, you have lips, you have the oral cavity, you have the mouthpiece, you have the length of the instrument. By pressing the valves down, you're lengthening the instrument even longer. I explain how we can play different partials by exciting the air to different frequency. I go through all of that. I even go so far as to explain amplitude and air volume and how that changes how loud or soft we play. I do all of that in the first lesson. A lot of people say, well, that's too much. You're going to confuse people and they'll never be able to play trumpet if you give them too much to think about. But the truth is, when you have a lot of questions about how it works, then you're thinking about how it works because you don't know. If someone tells you in the beginning the basics, or rather than tell you, if they work through you to understand it by asking you how it works the first day or the first few lessons, then in your mind you kind of solidify a working mechanical model of how it works. And once you have that, you don't have to keep thinking about it. You may think about little pieces, but you don't have to think about the whole thing. So think to yourself right now, how do I do this? How do I produce just a regular tone? So you might stop the video if you're serious about this right now and think about it. Write down on a piece of paper what's involved. Then tell me how you do this. I played 2 different notes without changing a valve. Both about the same volume. Then ask yourself, how do I do this? I just played soft. How is that different than this? And how is it different from this? And then how do I do this? How can I do all those things on a trumpet? And once you answer those questions, you'll have some pretty good ideas. When a student first plays their very first notes, I usually ask them to imagine setting the air in motion with their lips. And that's not an easy thing to think about. So a lot of teachers have a lot of different things to say about this. Some people have said, imagine you're spitting a watermelon seed from between your lips. That might be a good way to go. It works for a lot of students. I literally will take a little piece of paper and I'll fold it up into a small piece. So I folded this piece of paper. You probably want to bring the camera closer. So it's a very small piece of paper now, and I literally will have the student fold it up, put it between their lips right here, and I ask them to blow it out of their lips. There's always too much friction to actually blow it out of your lips, but you want to try to blow it right out of the center. If you do that a few times, then you have the student play a couple notes. Hopefully, if they can retain that feeling of trying that a few times, then they can play. Basically, I'm pressing my lips together so that one of them will vibrate when the air passes over it. Now, I'm not talking compressing this thing down so hard it doesn't come out. I'm asking the student to blow this out of their lips. I'm not asking them to hold it in there. I'm not saying clamp down on it. I'm not saying make a big open hole. I'm just saying blow it out of your lips, but hold it there first. To blow it out, you actually have to be able to open this little hole. So you can do it. When you open the hole, that would equate to a lower note because more air came out, lip length got longer. And I'm not going to go into all the details. The idea here is just to show you how I teach to play notes. So once they've tried blowing the paper out a few times and they're holding it right here when they do it, then usually they can play some notes. When you ask the student to play higher, right away most students will go like this. I'll say, well, why don't you play a note higher like I did? Most students will be like, that sounds great. Any student who's had any trumpet experience before almost always does this. And they blow extremely hard, and they do something that sounds kind of crazy. And that's when you have to get back to the physics of it and explain to them that higher notes require less air. So when you play a low note to a high note, you actually have to let out less air. And there's a ratio that's theoretical, but probably close to true. And that is, when you play a low note, like say a low C, then when you want to play the C an octave higher, your airspeed has to double, and the amount of air you blow out, which is the air volume, has to be cut in half. So if I'm playing a low C, let's see, I've got air volume of 100 whatever. We don't even know what the unit of measure is. And when we go up to the C above it, you only want 50, okay? So you want less. And a lot of students will then start to back off, but you have to teach them right from the beginning. If this is your first time playing trumpet, you have to force yourself to use less air as you play higher. If I want to play extremely, extremely high, what I do is let out just a tiny bit of air. That's really all I do. All I'm doing is letting out a tiny bit. Now I'm letting out a lot to a little. Okay, one thing that helps students with that is to take another piece of paper and roll it up into a very small tube. This tube is probably about 3 millimeters in diameter on the inside. That's all it is. Put that in your mouth, right in the center, and feel how comfortable it is to blow just a small amount of air through this tube. It's not a lot of air. It's different than a big hole like this. And then try it without the tube. Back and forth, do it a few times until you're blowing less air. It always has a hissing sound because there's less coming through there. And then play the note. Alright, so that airspeed, whatever I created with this little tube, was that note. Now you can roll it tighter and make it even smaller, or you can squash it a little bit, which is simulating even a higher note. Now I have almost no air coming out. And here it is. And that is how I teach trumpet players how to play the trumpet from the very first day, and how to play low notes to high notes before they ever learn to push down a valve. Alright, thank you for joining me, and if you have questions, feel free to post them here or on my website.